Who's getting federal bailout money, and are they following the rules? Our investigation found a dozen churches that violated COVID health restrictions also got taxpayer bailout money.
Many of those churches, Janelle, continue to hold packed indoor services, even after the latest U.S. Supreme Court ruling capping those services at 25%. Here's senior investigative reporter Stephen Stock.
Federal government data show that nearly 5,000 religious institutions here in California have accepted more than $608 million in federal SBA Paycheck Protection Program money, commonly known as PPP loans. While experts tell us there's nothing wrong with that, some do question whether it's a contradiction that some of those churches continue to defy local government health orders on the one hand while accepting government money with the other. Christmas Eve, the parking lots at Calvary Chapel in San Jose were packed, even though county health orders limited religious gatherings to a maximum of 100 people worshiping outside.
This is about keeping our community safe.
County Counsel James Williams says Santa Clara County has taken Calvary Chapel and its leaders to court multiple times, and at least twice a judge has found them in contempt of court.
And it's not just the gathering indoors. There's no face masking, no social distancing, no compliance with any of the very basic protocols that apply to everyone.
Williams says Calvary Chapel has racked up more than $1.8 million in fines, but hasn't paid any of it to this point. Yet our investigative unit found that Calvary Chapel received more than $340,000 in federal PPP money.
It's troubling. It's disappointing that on the one hand, they would choose to willfully put people's safety at risk in this time of crisis in our community, and on the other hand, be seeking taxpayer support.
Churches were making contradictory constitutional claims.
Cornell Law School professor and constitutional scholar Nelson Tebbe co-wrote with two University of Virginia colleagues this Washington Post op-ed last May, asserting that religious institutions cannot have it both ways.
On the one hand, churches were arguing for equal treatment when it came to funding. And on the other hand, they were arguing for special exemptions from COVID regulations that were limiting the size of gatherings.
That money went to pay our preschool teachers through our high school teachers, forced shutdown.
We caught up with Calvary Chapel's senior pastor Mike McClure outside court to ask him about accepting PPP money while defying local health restrictions.
I don't want to take that money. That's your money, my money, our grandkids' money. I don't agree with that. But at the same time, you know what? I got to pay all of our employees. So it's not the church that took it, it was our school.
Surrounded by about 50 supporters gathered with few masks, no social distancing, McClure defended his continued defiance of health orders when I asked him about the Post op-ed.
You said I'm fighting against the government. I'm not fighting against anybody. I want to help the government. I'm a chaplain. I'm not fighting against anybody. You're making me out to look like I'm crazy.
Calvary Chapel isn't the only one. We tracked nearly a dozen other religious institutions throughout California that accepted federal tax dollars while defying local health rules. In total, almost $6 million in PPP money. Churches like St. Mary's Cathedral in San Francisco, where just last month the Archbishop admitted publicly that the church violated health orders, and Saints Peter and Paul Church, overseen by the Diocese of San Francisco, where last summer they held a surreptitious wedding where guests arrived through an underground parking garage, a wedding that the city attorney said violated health orders. Spring Hills Community Church in Santa Rosa, which Sonoma County health officials say has violated COVID health rules numerous times. South Bay United Pentecostal Church in Chula Vista, a church that continued to meet indoors with no mask, even as it sued Governor Gavin Newsom over health restrictions, taking that case all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court.
And if someone comes to a church and they don't want to wear a mask, why should we? We're not the police.
Pastor Jim Doman founded Church United, an organization that advocates for the rights of evangelical churches throughout California, including some churches that have defied the health orders. We have a list of those churches. Some call that hypocritical, that we don't have to answer to you, we answer to a higher calling, and yet here, we'll take your money.
Sure. I frankly, I look at it as a tax return. We all pay taxes. This year I'm going to have to pay a ton in taxes. Good grief. It's a tax return. I'm just getting the money we've already paid back.
Even churches are subject to government regulation if that regulation is even-handed and justifiable.
The Honorable Michael McConnell served as a judge on the 10th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals and is now director of Stanford's Constitutional Law Center and a senior fellow at the Hoover Institution.
Churches are perfectly entitled under the Constitution to share in neutrally available benefits.
There seems to be some hypocrisy there, at least in the view of some.
Well, let us just be glad that hypocrisy is not a crime in this country, or we'd all be in jail.
Health officials also tell us at least 2 of the churches on the list apparently had COVID outbreaks among their members. All the other churches besides Calvary Chapel on our list did not respond to our questions about this apparent contradiction. I'm Stephen Stock, NBC Bay Area News.